friends. Today I'm going to be translating a very important video from the Mexican President of the United Mexican States. They have a new thing that they're signing today, which is a initiative to fortify the defense or the legal defense for people who are in a situation that is not equal, let's say, to the rich people. So it's to defend people that are in a position of defenselessness, for example, children, women, elderly, or the poor in the most furthest out areas. So it is a very important part, and one of the most important things they talk about is ethics. But I'm going to translate it so you can hear it in the words that he used, in English, but in the words that they used in their discourse today. This is the conference of the Mexican president today. And let's see, it's right around 12. So we're going to go right around, it's right around 12 that they start, right around there. So we're going to start there. A little bit more maybe. Okay, we're almost there, somewhere in there. Okay, so that way it'll give me a minute to get everything rolling. But thank you very much to anybody who wants to drop in to say hello. I'm going to be able to say hello. And getting rolling on my conferences here. Hopefully everything's going well. Let's do this again. Trying to open up a new web page because initially it just does not show up. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. And now I will be able to answer people. Okay, I'm going to make it a little louder. So he says hello. Cheer up. Cheer up, everyone.
Pues el día de hoy es un día muy especial.
So he says today is a very special day.
Porque nos acompaña el ministro Arturo Saldívar Lelo de la Rea, que es el presidente de la Suprema Corte de Justicia de la Nación.
So he says we are accompanied by the Supreme Court Justice President of the Judicial Division of the Mexican government. So like the Attorney General, maybe?
Es para nosotros pues un honor.
And he says for us it is an honor
Nos acompañe
to be accompanied by
el presidente
the
de la
President
Suprema Corte de Justicia.
of the Supreme Court Justice.
En un tiempo, en un momento
In a moment,
en que se está haciendo un esfuerzo extraordinario
so at the time that we are making an extraordinary effort
para que las instituciones estén plenamente al servicio del pueblo, al servicio de la sociedad.
so that the government will be completely at the service of society.
Son tiempos de renovación y
They are times of renewal and of
de cambio
change,
verdadero.
true change.
Estamos trabajando
We are working
de manera coordinada,
in a coordinated manner,
respetando la independencia,
respecting the
la
independence,
autonomía
the autonomy
de los poderes.
of the powers, the government powers.
Ya se terminó
And it is ended
el tiempo, la práctica,
the time, the
ya no es el
practice.
tiempo, ya no se practica aquello
We no
de
longer,
que
okay, we no longer practice that in the past,
el poder de los poderes era el ejecutivo.
that the greatest power of powers, was the executive. That is to say, the president or himself.
Y que el poder judicial y el poder legislativo estaban subordinados.
And that the legislative and the judicial powers were subordinate.
Ahora
Now,
se cumple lo que está establecido en la Constitución,
now
hay
we come,
división, hay equilibrio entre
now we comply with that which is written in the Constitution. There is equilibrium, and there is a division of powers.
los poderes, pero también
But also,
en esa independencia, en
within
ese
that
respeto a la
independence
autonomía de los poderes,
and that respect to the autonomy of the powers,
hay cooperación
there is cooperation,
para poner siempre por delante el interés nacional
so that you can always put above
y
everything
defender
the national interest
el
and to defend
interés
the
de
interest
nuestro pueblo
of our people
con estricto apego
with
al
strict
mandato
adherence
constitucional.
to the mandate, a
Como
constitutional mandate.
es facultad del Ejecutivo el enviar iniciativas de reformas, facultad que no tiene el Poder Judicial. Nos presentó el ministro presidente de la Suprema Corte
Due to them not having the proper authorities, the head or president of the judicial powers presented us with a document.
un proyecto de iniciativa
It's a project of an initiative
que nosotros apoyamos
that we are supporting,
y vamos a firmar
and we
para
are going
enviar
to sign
al Congreso
to send to Congress
sobre las características de estas reformas. El ministro va a exponer
So regarding the characteristics of this reform, the minister is going to explain
de qué se trata
what it is about.
y vamos a llevar a cabo la firma aquí
And we will be taking and making the signatures here
frente a ustedes de
in
la
front of you,
iniciativa
the initiative,
y desde luego de cara a los ciudadanos
and also in the face of all the citizens,
para que se analice, se discuta
so that it can be analyzed, so it can be discussed,
y en su caso se apruebe
and in its case, that it be approved
en el Congreso.
in Congress.
Para explicar, repito, sobre el contenido de estas propuestas,
And to explain regarding the content of these proposals,
le vamos a permitir al doctor Arturo Saldívar que
and we are going to permit Arturo Saldívar, Dr. Arturo Saldívar,
nos exponga en qué consiste lo que se va a enviar al Congreso.
and we will allow him to explain to us what this consists that we're going to be sending to the Congress.
Gracias, presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Muy buenos días. Primer término, quiero expresar mi reconocimiento y agradecimiento
First of all, the first matter I want to recognize my appreciation and my recognition
al señor presidente Andrés Manuel López Obrador
for the President Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador
por su confianza y apoyo
for his confidence and support
al hacer suya y suscribir la propuesta de reforma judicial
by making his and supporting the judicial proposal
emanada del propio Poder Judicial
that is in the hands of the actual judicial department
de la Federación.
of the Federation.
Este gesto político
This political gesture
que mucho valoro
that I value very highly
corrobora su respeto
collaborates his respect
a la independencia judicial.
his respect for the judicial independence.
Les comento que en varias ocasiones
I comment to you that on various occasions,
el presidente, el consejero jurídico y yo
the President, the Judicial Counselor, and I,
comentamos que el Poder Judicial Federal
we commented that the judicial official power
no requería una reforma estructural.
did not require structural reform.
La conformación, el diseño constitucional
The way it's composed and its constitutional design
de la Suprema Corte
of the Supreme Court
y del Consejo de la Judicatura Federal
and the Council of the Federal Adjunct
es adecuada.
is adequate.
Tan lo es que durante el último año hemos podido avanzar
So much so that in the last year we have been able to advance
en reformas internas muy trascendentes
in very transcending internal reforms
para transformar el Poder Judicial
in order to transform the judicial power
de la Federación.
of the Federation.
Además, emprender
And besides that,
ahora una reforma que modifique
and also today adding a reform to modify
la estructura de la Corte
the structure of the court
o del Consejo de la Judicatura
or of the council of the adjunct, I guess it would be like a legal department,
podría atentar contra la independencia judicial
which could attempt against the judicial power
y debilitar a la institución
and weaken the institution
cuando lo que se requiere es un Poder Judicial
when what we require is a judicial power
fuerte, independiente,
that is strong and independent,
legitimado y prestigiado.
that is legitimized and has prestige.
De tal suerte que la reforma que se presenta
In such a way that is lucky that the new reform that is presented
es una reforma funcional,
is a functional reform
de gran calado, profunda, que tiene diversos
that is very profound and tested, that has
ejes y voy simplemente
its what would be a good word? Eje. It's like the structural base.
a señalar brevemente algunos de ellos.
And I'm going to signal a few of these structural powers.
En primer lugar, busca fortalecer las facultades del Consejo de la Judicatura Federal
It seeks to strengthen the counselors of the judicial executive
para combatir con mayor eficacia
to combat with more efficiency
la corrupción, el nepotismo,
corruption, nepotism,
la impunidad
impunity,
y el acoso sexual
and sexual assault
en el Poder Judicial.
within the judicial power.
Por otro lado,
And on the other hand,
busca la generación
it looks to regenerate
de un nuevo perfil de juez,
a new profile for a judge,
de jueces y juezas
of judges, male and female,
más cercanos a la gente, más capacitados
that are closer to the people and that are better capacitated
y más sensibles.
and more sensitive,
Establecer una auténtica escuela judicial
and to establish an authentic judicial school
en la cual se vayan formando todos los cuadros
where we will be forming all the areas
del Poder Judicial
of the federal judicial power,
Federal, generando por primera vez una
generating for the first time,
auténtica carrera judicial.
generating an authentic judicial career.
También se hace una apuesta para
And also we are betting on
ir avanzando como política pública,
with public politics
como principio y como regla
as a principle and as a rule
en la paridad de género,
in the equality of gender,
para que tengamos más y mejores mujeres
so that we will have more and better women
en más y mejores cargos.
in better and more and better careers or powers or positions.
Pero sobre todo es una apuesta
But above all, it is a betting on
para establecer un nuevo perfil de defensores públicos,
to create a new profile for public defenders,
que los defensores públicos se constituyan
that the public defenders be constituted
en verdaderos abogados
in true attorneys
de los pobres,
of the poor,
que logremos llevar la justicia
so that we are able to take justice
a los rincones más alejados del país,
to the most distant corners of our country,
a la gente más pobre,
to the most impoverished people,
más necesitada,
the most needy,
más olvidada,
the most forgotten,
más discriminada,
and the most discriminated,
aquella que ha perdido la esperanza,
those that have lost hope.
y tenemos la obligación de devolverles la esperanza
And we have the obligation to return hope to them
en la justicia.
and justice.
Estoy seguro de que de aprobarse esta reforma,
I am sure that as we approve this reform,
avanzaremos hacia el logro de una justicia plena
we will advance towards a plentiful justice
y completa,
that is complete,
hacia la consolidación de un auténtico
and to consolidate a complete and authentic
Estado de Derecho
state of correctness and right,
y hacia, como había dicho, lograr que renazca la esperanza
and as I said before, to gain the rebirth of hope
en la gente, en la justicia.
in people regarding justice.
La reforma se presentará formalmente
The reform will be presented formally
el día de hoy a las 11 de la mañana
today at 11 a.m.
en el edificio de la Suprema Corte de Justicia de la Nación,
in the Supreme Court of the nation,
en donde tendremos el honor de recibir
where we will have the honor of receiving
a senadoras y senadores de la República
senators, male and female, of the Republic,
de todos los partidos políticos
of all the political parties,
y al consejero jurídico del Ejecutivo Federal,
and of the council, judicial council of the executive power,
Julio Scherer,
Julio Cheddar,
a quien también le expreso mi reconocimiento
And here I also express my recognition
y agradecimiento por su apoyo en todo este
for his and appreciation for his support in all of this
proceso. Señor
process.
presidente, le reitero mi agradecimiento por este apoyo y confianza
And Mr. President, I reiterate my happiness over your support and confidence
en la reforma del Poder Judicial,
in the reform of the judicial power,
la cual es necesaria para seguir transformando el país
which is necessary to continue to transform our country
en bien de todas y de todos,
for the good of all,
sobre todo de los que menos tienen.
and above all for those who have the least.
Muchas gracias, presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wow. I have got to say, this is impressive. I find sometimes the things that I see give me hope again. Give me hope in that there might actually be some kind of justice in this world, because after seeing what's been happening in the world, especially in the US, with the way the pharmaceuticals and large corporations and people with money, how they have taken advantage of the people and had us be like sheep to slaughter, and just taken complete advantage of every situation, using their delegates and their lobbyists to do bad things to the people. It's beautiful to see a country that is doing everything that is good for the people, and it warms my heart, and I know that it'll make other people feel good about it.
Pues yo creo que de acuerdo al programa,
So he says, I believe that according to the program,
porque aquí no hay mucho protocolo
because here we really don't have a lot of protocol
y ceremonial,
and ceremony.
aquí la mayor la mayoría de las cosas se hacen de manera espontánea, ya se acabó
And that everything here is done in a spontaneous manner. That is ended.
aquel tiempo de que todo era, ¿no?, acartonado.
He says the time is over that everything was put into a box.
Aquí vamos a firmar la iniciativa
And here we will sign the initiative
que se va a enviar.
that will be sent.
Terminando esta firma, vamos a continuar con el segundo tema,
And after we finish with the signing of this document, we will go on to the second matter,
del orden del día,
which is the order of the day,
que es el informe sobre la política migratoria.
which is the information regarding the migration topic.
Por eso nos acompaña también el equipo encabezado
And that is why we are also accompanied by the team that is headed
por Marcelo Ebrard.
by Marcelo Ebrard.
Y por respeto a la independencia
And as to show respect for the independence
de los poderes y
of the powers and
del poder judicial,
of the judicial power,
pues las preguntas y las respuestas sobre la iniciativa,
so the questions and answers regarding the initiative,
pues como van a tener esta presentación en la Suprema Corte de Justicia,
and since they are going to be having this presentation in the Supreme Court of Justice,
pues dejamos para que allá se aclare más sobre los pormenores.
and so we will be leaving that to them to clear up all the details
De la iniciativa. Yo
regarding the initiative.
Nada más aquí destaco que en el intercambio
Only here I want to point out that in the interchange
de puntos de vista, en el análisis
of points of view and the analysis
que se hizo,
that was made,
además de que el propósito es combatir la corrupción,
and besides that, the purpose is to combat corruption
como algo central,
as something central.
me place mucho el que se vaya a fortalecer lo de las defensorías de oficio.
And it pleases me very much that they are going to fortify the defense attorneys in careers. Or as positions or jobs,
Los defensores del pueblo,
which are the defenders of the people.
que haya abogados
That there be attorneys
para defender
in order to
a los
defend
débiles.
the weak.
Lo que decía Morelos,
What Morelos used to say,
que haya tribunales
that there be tribunals
para defender
in order to
al
defend
débil de
the
los
weak
abusos
of the
que comete el
abuses
fuerte.
that are committed by the strong one.
Esa es la esencia, eso es lo que
That is the
más
essence.
me satisface.
That is what
Que,
satisfies me most.
La gente más humilde,
That the most humble people,
los desposeídos,
the ones that have been
los
dispossessed,
marginados,
the
la
margined
población
off,
indígena,
the indigenous
la
population,
gente más pobre, mujeres,
the most
niños,
impoverished
ancianos,
people,
la población vulnerable,
women, the
tenga
vulnerable population have
protección,
this
tenga
protection
defensa.
and have a defense.
Porque ya sabemos
Because we all know
que los acaudalados,
that those that were in
los
power,
potentados,
that had
o los que
potentiated,
tienen
or
más
those,
posibilidades
or that have
económicas,
better economic possibilities,
más relaciones,
or better
más
relations,
conocimientos,
or more
pues se les
knowledge,
facilita
it was
siempre
easy for them
la defensa
to get defenses
en el terreno de lo judicial.
when it came to
Pero
the judicial
la mayoría de la
terrain.
gente no tiene
But the majority of the people don't have
asesoría, no tiene
access,
orientación, protección,
orientation,
defensa.
protection,
Entonces,
defense.
una de las partes sustanciales de esta reforma
So
es
that
eso,
is one of the substantial parts of this reform. This
que propuso el presidente de la Suprema
that was proposed by the president of the judicial power,
Corte, el fortalecimiento de los defensores del pueblo.
which is the fortifying of the defenders of the people.
Antes se les conocía como defensores de oficio, pero
And before they were known as defenders by office or position.
esto es muy importante, el que en todos los casos
This is very important, that in every case
hay abogados,
there will be attorneys,
mujeres y hombres,
men and women,
que defiendan
that will defend
al débil
the weak
de los abusos que comete el fuerte
of the abuses of
y
the
que
strong one,
haya justicia,
and that there be justice,
que no solo se castigue
that
al
not
que no
only
tiene
will they
con qué comprar
punish,
su
that no longer will they punish only the one that is unable to purchase his
inocencia,
innocence,
que haya esta defensoría. Bueno, pues
and
vamos
that
a
there be
empezar a
this
firmar
defense.
y ya después, gracias a Dios.
And let's sign it, and then after that, we'll do whatever else. Wow. This is. See, now this president, when he says, I'm going to do it, he says, let's do it now. Why wait? Let's just get it done. Get her done. That's right. So proud, so proud. Defending the people that had no defense before. So for the impoverished people, my dog is bothering me. That for the impoverished people who could never afford to get justice, now they can. So that's why this is so important, because it allows us to have more of a level playing field for justice. Well, it never was a level playing field. The rich always got away with everything.
Pues pasamos al
So next we go on
segundo tema.
to the second topic.
Le pedimos a Marcelo Ebrard
And we asked
que nos
Marcelo
informe.
Ebrard to inform us.
Teníamos ese acuerdo, ¿no?
And we had that agreement
Que se informara
that we
completo sobre la
would
política migratoria.
be informing completely over the migratory
Muy buenos días, con su permiso, señor
situation.
presidente,
Hello, Mr. President, and
Señoras,
hello,
señores.
everybody, men and women.
compañeras, compañeros. Hace 8
He said it's been about 8
meses
months
anunció un plan de atención especial
we announced a special plan for special attention
al tema de migración y desarrollo
for the matter of immigration and development
en el sur del país.
in the south part of our country.
Y para ese propósito se integraron varias dependencias y
And to that purpose, many agencies were integrated.
una comisión intersecretarial
And we made a commission that is interactive.
En la comisión participa en primer lugar la Secretaría de Gobernación,
And they, in the commission, they participate the Center of Immigration
por conducto del Instituto Nacional de Migración,
that is conducted by the Institute of Immigration,
la Guardia Nacional,
the National Guard,
la Secretaría del Trabajo,
the Secretary of Work,
por conducto del subsecretario Horacio Duarte, aquí presente,
that is conducted by Horacio Duarte. He's present.
a cargo de la atención a los migrantes que están en espera de audiencia
And they are in charge of the immigrants that are waiting for an audience
en los Estados Unidos,
in the United States,
en el norte del país.
in the northern part of the country.
La Secretaría de Seguridad, por
The Secretary of Security,
conducto del subsecretario Ricardo Mejía, también aquí presente,
that is conducted by Ricardo Mejia, who's also here present,
responsable de la supervisión de los sistemas de transporte,
and he is responsible for the systems of transport,
ferroviario, autobuses y otras vías
that is done by train, buses, and other vias or ways
que son utilizadas para este propósito.
that are utilized for this purpose.
La Secretaría del Bienestar, por conducto del subsecretario Javier May, responsable de
The Secretary of Well-Being and Health is responsible, Javier May,
ofrecer empleos o posibilidades de empleo en el
to offer employment or possibility of employment
sur del país,
to the south of the country.
para lo cual se expandió, se hizo crecer
And for this purpose, we enlarged or made to grow
el programa especialmente de Sembrando Vida.
the program, especially for that purpose, Planting Life.
La Secretaría de Salud,
The
para la
Secretary of
atención
Health,
médica con apoyo del Instituto Mexicano del Seguro
the Secretary of Health, in order to provide health care with the support of the
Social,
the social government,
el Sistema Nacional de Desarrollo Integral de la Familia para
and the national system for integral development of families
la atención de menores,
and attention of minors,
especialmente los menores no acompañados,
especially the children that are traveling without company or unaccompanied,
y la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores por conducto de la Subsecretaría de América Latina y el Caribe,
and also the Secretary for Latin America for Foreign Affairs and the Caribbean.
a cargo de Maximiliano Reyes aquí presente, y de
That is charged by Maximiliano Reyes, who's also present here,
la Agencia Mexicana de Cooperación y Desarrollo,
and also the Mexican Agency of Cooperation and Development,
a cargo de la doctora Laura Carrillo, responsable
that is being led or headed by Laura Carrillo, who is responsible for
de la implementación de los programas Sembrando Vida
the implementation of the programs Planting Life
y Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro
and Youth Constructing a Future
en Guatemala, El Salvador y Honduras.
which are in Guatemala, San Salvador, and Honduras. So this, for you that don't know, is a program that Mexico shared with those three countries, San Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, in order to give them ideas of how to create jobs for their people. And they also gave them a large sum of money to help implement these programs.
Con una inversión total de $100 millones.
And they invested $100 million in total.
A 8 meses, ¿qué resultados son los que se tienen?
And within these 8 months, what are the results that we have to show?
Si ustedes me permiten, vamos a transmitir en primer lugar un video
And if you would permit me, we would like to transmit, first of all, a video
que preparó el Instituto Nacional de Migración
that was
y
prepared.
posteriormente les voy a comentar los principales resultados de estos 8 meses de trabajo. Si nos pasan.
And then after that, I will present you with what has happened with these last few months of work.
Gracias.
So we're going to watch it now.
El Gobierno de México atiende el fenómeno migratorio con responsabilidad, compromiso y pleno respeto a los derechos humanos, promoviendo alternativas para que la migración sea una opción y no una necesidad. En concordancia con la normatividad nacional y tratados internacionales, el trabajo coordinado entre la Secretaría de Gobernación, la Guardia Nacional, la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, el Sistema Nacional de Salud, la Secretaría de Bienestar, la Secretaría del Trabajo y Previsión Social, el Instituto Nacional de Migración, la Coordinación Nacional de Protección Civil, la Comisión Nacional de Derechos Humanos y los gobiernos estatales, permite que los extranjeros reciban apoyo humanitario e información sobre las alternativas que tienen para mejorar su calidad de vida.
Wow, these are all the agencies that are involved in helping to better the quality of life for the migrants that are trying to enter the country. As you can see, this is a young man or girl. It's hard to tell the gender right there, but they're being helped health-wise, given jobs, being treated in a human or humanitarian way.
Iniciar el trámite que les permite acceder a los mecanismos de protección de la Comisión Mexicana de...
So, as you can see there, it says the word protección, which means protection, because they have put mechanisms in place to protect these people, because as the president has said before, they are our brothers.
Ayuda a refugiados. Permanecer en México con proyectos de empleo bajo nuestras leyes migratorias.
And here's another part. It says you can decide to stay in Mexico with projects of employment under our new migratory laws.
En el caso de la población migrante proveniente de El Salvador, Honduras y Guatemala, inscribirse en alguno de los programas que ya están en marcha en sus países de...
Also, what they said there is that they can enroll in the programs that are already in place in their countries of origin. So they can enroll in Mexico and be transferred so that when they arrive, they will already have a job set up for them.
de origen o retorno asistido a su país.
Or if they decide, they can return to their country and be assisted. And it looks like I know some were taken by air, some were taken by bus, and some obviously are taken by train.
Para brindar una mejor asistencia a los extranjeros durante su estancia en los centros de atención migratoria.
And here you can see they also have created child care for the children that arrived without families.
Las instalaciones fueron rehabilitadas y remodeladas.
And they rehabilitated and remodeled the places that they used to have for children.
Manteniendo una estrecha comunicación con embajadas y consulados.
And they maintain a very elaborate communication with embassies and consulates.
Las niñas, niños y adolescentes permanecen al lado de sus familias.
And children remain at their family's side, unlike in the U.S. where they're put into cages apart from their families.
Y son atendidos con especial cuidado.
And they are attended to with special attention.
Procurando su integridad.
And they are very attentive to their emotional and integrity and stability.
Y estabilidad emocional a través de actividades lúdicas,
and they let them do academic and other type of educational things.
Y académicas, mientras que a los menores no acompañados se les asiste a través del Sistema Nacional para el Desarrollo Integral.
And so children that arrive without families are attended to by the DIF, which is a system for the development of integral families.
De la familia. Para asegurar la prosperidad económica de México.
In order to assure the economic prosperity of Mexico,
estamos atendiendo el fenómeno desde su origen.
We are attending the migratory phenomenon from its origin.
Impulsando el desarrollo de la región del sureste del país.
And we are encouraging the development of jobs in the south of our country and the north of Central America.
Norte de Centroamérica.
Estaba yo con mi papá, iba. Acababa de llegar de darle comida a los animales. Entonces le digo, papá, fíjate que me hablaron, le digo, del papel que le dije que me dieron allá en México, le digo, ¿usted cree? Pues sí.
He says, I was working with my father, and when we came in after feeding the animals, I told them, Father, they called me regarding that paper I filled out when I was in Mexico. And he said, why would I believe that some other person is going to be worried about giving you something? He said to me. And I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to see if it's true. And when I went there and I asked, yes, they said, there it is. There's the place you go to. And then when I went there and I saw you all there, I said, yes, now I believe it is true.
Por ello, a través del Fondo México,
and because of that, the Foundation of Mexico,
se impulsa la creación de...
They encouraged or propelled the creation of 60,000 employments via some programs.
60,000 empleos mediante los programas
And there's 60,000 jobs, planting life and youth creating a future.
Sembrando vida y jóvenes construyendo el futuro en El Salvador, Guatemala y Honduras.
And in those three countries, they helped institute these programs to help encourage the development and economic growth and protection for the people.
Porque este país y esta región compartimos una suerte.
Because in this country and in this region, we share a fortune.
Compartimos un destino.
We share a destiny, and we accompany you on your trip.
Somos compañeros de viaje
And we are accompanying you on your trip.
y nos estamos haciendo cargo.
We're accompanying you on your destiny, and we are taking charge.
Gobierno de México.
Plan de Migración y Desarrollo.
$258 million.
La migración es un fenómeno global.
The migration is a global phenomenon, which, by the way, is caused by these rich plutocrats that have taken away everything from the rest of the people.
Originado por diversos factores.
That is originated by diverse factors.
Políticos, culturales,
Political, cultural,
raciales,
racial,
religiosos,
religious,
socioeconómicos,
socioeconomic,
de inseguridad,
insecurity,
familiares y por catástrofes naturales.
by families and by natural catastrophes.
México es un país de paso obligado
Mexico is a place of obligatory peace
para las naciones generadoras de movimientos migratorios,
for the nations of generated migrations
como El Salvador,
like El Salvador,
Colombia,
Colombia,
Cuba,
Cuba,
Guatemala,
Guatemala,
Haití,
Haiti,
Honduras y Venezuela,
Honduras, and Venezuela,
quienes tienen como objetivo llegar a los Estados Unidos,
which have the objective of getting to the United States,
sumando como fenómeno excepcional el incremento del flujo de migrantes transcontinentales.
and which this has increased the migration of intercontinental migration phenomena.
Durante los primeros 6 meses de 2019,
Within the first 6 months of the year 2019,
ingresaron de manera irregular casi 600,000 personas migrantes.
there was an irregular migration of about 600,000 people.
Una parte lo hicieron en las 8 caravanas registradas y
Some of it was, or a part of it was done in the 8 registered migration areas.
otros de manera individual.
Others did it in an individual manner.
Tendencia que de continuar habría llevado a recibir más de 1 millón de personas en ese año.
And in that year, we received more than 1 million people.
Ante este crecimiento exponencial, el
And facing this exponential growth,
gobierno de México estableció un plan de migración y desarrollo
the government of Mexico developed a plan for development and migration
basado en el combate a la corrupción,
that was based on combating corruption,
la coordinación con la Guardia Nacional,
coordination with the National Guard,
la oferta de empleos a personas migrantes en el sureste de México,
and offering jobs to the people that were entering the south of Mexico,
y la relación con los gobiernos de Centroamérica y el Caribe.
and our relations with the governments of Central America and the Caribbean.
Estos ejes rectores tienen como prioridad la protección humana y
And these agencies have as their crux the protection of humans and safety,
fortalecer una migración regular,
and to fortify migration that's regular
ordenada y segura.
that is orderly and secure,
así como una gestión transparente.
and also to have a transparency.
Muestra de ello es la separación del cargo de 893 servidores públicos.
And they separated 893 public servants from their jobs
Por actos indebidos
because of inappropriate actions,
y por no acreditar la evaluación de control y confianza.
because also they did not inspire confidence.
Hemos avanzado mucho en sanear el Instituto Nacional de Migración.
And there the president is saying that we've done very much in order to help heal our immigration department
En cuanto a que se combata la corrupción.
in combating corruption.
Dentro de las estrategias del Instituto Nacional de Migración destacan 1. Contención en la frontera sur y norte con despliegue de la Guardia Nacional y agentes federales de migración en los 190
So they've set out the National Guard Immigration Department
4 puntos de internación formales. 2. Infraestructura y servicios para atención a migrantes en la frontera
and they have infrastructure and service for the attention of the migrants
sur y norte.
from the south and the north. And you can see these people are from Haiti.
Se instalaron 12 campamentos en los que, al igual que las 66 instalaciones permanentes,
And they established 2 campsites,
se proporciona especial atención a grupos vulnerables.
and they give special attention to vulnerable groups.
Durante 2019, el Instituto Nacional de Migración remodeló 15 anexos migratorios.
During the year 2019, the government did some repairs to some migration places of like a refuge,
con un costo de 396 millones de pesos,
and it cost them 396 million pesos,
de los cuales 60 fueron aportados por la Agencia Mexicana de Cooperación Internacional para el Desarrollo,
and 60 of them were bought by the Mexican Agency of Development, International Development and Cooperation.
AMEXI. Para el alojamiento digno de las personas migrantes, el Instituto Nacional de Migración
And for the dignified treatment of migrants, the Department of Immigration
proporcionó 4.705.212 raciones de alimentos.
they proportioned or gave several million dollars for food and so that they could feed the people.
440.104
440,000,
insumos como frazadas, colchones, medicamentos,
and these were supplies that they gave.
botellas y pipas de agua.
So these
3. Disminuir el número de migrantes rescatados en los albergues. 4. Atención especial a niñas, niños y adolescentes migrantes acompañados y no acompañados.
So they gave special attention to families, children that were accompanied by adults, and also children that had no accompaniment.
5. Asistencia médica permanente a las personas migrantes.
Permanent medical attention for migrant people.
Se otorgó atención especial a 49 madres migrantes cuyos hijos nacieron en México.
And we gave special attention to migrants who were pregnant women that had their babies in Mexico.
Canalizaron 34.207 consultas médicas a la Secretaría de Salud.
And we gave 34,207 consults, medical consults.
Y 8.800 consultas al Instituto Mexicano del Seguro Social.
And also 8,800 consults with the Social Security.
6. Prevención e investigación al crimen organizado en
Prevention and investigation in organized crime
el tráfico de personas migrantes.
and the trafficking of migrant people.
En 2019, el Instituto coadyuvó a poner a disposición del Ministerio Público a 277 traficantes de personas.
And they put, they took and gave justice or how shall I say, punished 277 people that were trafficking other people.
así como para girar 37 órdenes de aprehensión
And they had 37 orders of
y
apprehension,
asegurar 228 vehículos.
and they took 228 vehicles.
Además, se identificaron redes de tráfico de personas, 18
We also identified webs trafficking people,
nacionales y 10 internacionales.
some that were national and some that were international.
7. Coordinación con los gobiernos estatales.
Also, we had a coordination with the state governments.
8. Coordinación y participación con instituciones religiosas.
Also, we had coordination and support by religious organizations
ONGs y mecanismos nacionales e internacionales, como
and mechanisms that were national and international.
la ONU Derechos Humanos, OIM, ACNUR y UNICEF.
So all those agencies he just mentioned were there and were involved in the help.
Durante 2020, el Instituto Nacional de Migración ha recibido 129 visitas de organizaciones de la sociedad civil.
So this is the number of visits that they've had from organizations that are making sure that they are doing things the right way in protection of human rights. 12,516 visits in 12,387 were 2019, and in the year 2020, so far they've had 129 visits from organizations that are seeking to make sure that human rights are being taken care of.
Civil. 9. Coordinación con la Comisión Nacional de los Derechos Humanos.
And 9 was the coordination with human rights.
Durante 2019, la CNDH recibió 736 quejas referentes a la actuación de la autoridad migratoria.
And in 2019, they received 736 complaints against the immigration staff.
Y emitió 3 recomendaciones, una de ellas para la actual administración.
And they had 3 recommendations actually for the immigration department. 80 complaints so far in 2020.
2020, son 80 las quejas que la CNDH ha recibido por actuación de la autoridad migratoria, de las cuales 4 fueron presentadas con motivo de la caravana.
They said that 80 complaints and 4 of them were related to the migratory caravan.
10. Relación con los gobiernos de Centroamérica y el Caribe.
Relations with the Central American and Caribbean countries.
En 2019 fueron presentadas ante el Instituto 179.971 personas extranjeras.
So in 2019 we had 179,971 migrant people presented.
Los cuales 126.961 son adultos y 53.010.
So this is the numbers. They had 91,678 men, 35,000 women, 35,000 little girls or children that had accompaniment, 1,700 that did not, that were unaccompanied.
Son niñas, niños y adolescentes, procedentes principalmente de Honduras, Guatemala y El Salvador.
And these people came primarily, as you can see, 45% from Honduras, 11% El Salvador, 27% Guatemala, and 17% were other countries.
Regresando a su país de origen a 141.263.
And 141,000 returned to their country of origin.
En enero de 2020 fueron 11.709 las personas migrantes presentadas ante el INM.
So it says 11,000 were presented to the Secretary or Institute of Migration.
Y 9.121 las personas retornadas a su país de origen.
And 9,000 were returned to their country of origin.
En cuanto a los mexicanos que han sido repatriados desde Estados Unidos durante 2019, México ha recibido a 211.383 connacionales.
So now these are the Mexican people that were returned from the U.S. to Mexico and repatriated. There's 198,000 adults and 12,770 children. These were people that were kicked out of the U.S., Mexican people that were kicked out of the U.S. and sent back to Mexico. And that's a pretty high number, considering that most of them have lived here all their life.
De los cuales 198.613 son adultos y 12.770 son niñas, niños y adolescentes.
Now you can see down there, it says 2,000 were accompanied and 10,000 were not accompanied. In other words, they sent children back without family. That is pretty darn scary. Boy, this U.S. government.
Mientras que en 2020 se ha recibido a 18.376 mexicanos repatriados.
So in 2020, they've already received 18,000 that were kicked out of the United States.
El Instituto Nacional de Migración informa que durante 2019 fueron atendidas 268.735 personas migrantes.
So they're saying that they attended to 268,735 in 2019.
Con algún trámite de regularización migratoria, mientras que en 2020 se han atendido a 21.687 extranjeros.
And this is how many they've attended to this year, to 21,000.
Como resultado de esas acciones, el flujo irregular hacia los Estados Unidos se mantiene con tendencia a la baja, considerando que en la estadística migratoria el registro fue de 144.278 personas en el mes de mayo de 2019 y para el mes de enero de 2020 la cifra disminuyó.
So this is what the migration to the United States was looking like. And this is in May, it started to go downward. This was the migration phenomenon. And so it looks like May. Wow, that really came down.
A 36.637.
So now we're at 36,000.
Es importante destacar que esta migración irregular representó únicamente el 3% de los 39 millones de personas que llegaron a México. El 97% de los ingresos fueron de forma regular.
This only represents 3% of the people that entered Mexico.
Propósitos turísticos y de negocios.
And a lot of these were tourist and business purposes.
En total, durante 2019 se realizaron en ventanilla a nivel nacional 507.677 trámites migratorios.
So in the last year, they had 507,677 migration paperwork that was done to migrate to Mexico.
Que se derivaron en 7.107.394 acciones, recaudándose por pago de derechos migratorios 12.816 millones de pesos, 16% más de lo programado. El presupuesto erogado fue de...
So they said they had a very much higher amount of people that migrated than they were expecting. So they had a very high number of or amount that they weren't expecting to spend.
De 5.608 millones de pesos para la atención y servicios.
So they had 5,000 million that they spent for the attention of this situation.
A migrantes mexicanos y extranjeros sin importar su situación migratoria.
And they helped people no matter what their origin.
Durante 2019 y luego de un esfuerzo sin precedentes para dar atención a las personas migrantes, México recuperó la gobernabilidad en el tema migratorio. La vocación del servicio, la lealtad y el humanismo de las mujeres y hombres que integran el Instituto Nacional de Migración.
So they rehired and retrained people to have a humanitarian style of care for the people that were entering.
Fortalecen a México promoviendo una migración ordenada, segura.
And they promoted a orderly migration.
México tiene fe en las virtudes de la humanidad, tiene esperanza.
Mexico has the virtues of humanitarianism.
Cree que el mañana será mejor, profesa la libertad.
We believe that tomorrow will be better and we profess liberty.
La justicia, la la democracia y sustenta sus valores en los derechos humanos.
And we substantiate our values in human rights. Wow. That's beautiful.
Gobierno de México.
Muchas gracias. Simplemente entonces subrayaría yo los resultados más relevantes
So basically, I just want to underline the most relevant values
de estos 8 meses.
of these 8 months.
En primer lugar, se han reducido los cruces en la frontera con Estados Unidos
First of all, we've reduced the crossings to the United States
en 74.5%,
by 74%.
que es la gráfica que están ustedes viendo ahí.
And that is the slide that you are seeing there.
También de manera coincidente
And also in a coincidental matter,
se redujeron los rescates a cargo del Instituto Nacional de Migración.
we reduced the rescues of the Institute of Immigration.
Tiene la misma tendencia a la baja, el pico es también en el mes de junio.
And they have the same tendency, as you can see, the decrease from the month of June.
Y ya para diciembre se había reducido sustancialmente.
And by December, it had been reduced substantially.
Por otra parte, el trabajo, la inversión que México ha hecho
And on the other hand, the work, the investment that Mexico has made
en Guatemala, Honduras y El Salvador como
in Guatemala, Honduras, and Salvador
parte del Plan de Desarrollo Integral
as part of the integral development plan
que presentó CEPAL,
that was presented by CEPAL,
ya muestra algunos de sus primeros resultados.
is now showing us some of its first results or first fruits,
Especialmente en el caso de El Salvador,
especially in the case of San Salvador,
donde a esta fecha hay 6.061 personas dentro de este programa,
where there is now 6,061 people already enrolled in this program.
la meta es llegar a 20.000.
And this is the plan called Sembrando Vida, which is where they plant trees and they get paid to plant the trees. This way they not only have jobs caring for the trees, and also it helps reverse some of the damage that's done by global warming from the destruction of trees that has been done by the wood and paper industry.
Lo cual significa que México sería el único país que otorga semejante número de empleos
And this would show and prove that Mexico is the only country that has granted this number of employment
a las personas que tienen que emigrar por condiciones de pobreza.
for people that had to migrate under conditions of poverty.
Esto no lo está haciendo ningún otro país del mundo.
And this is not being done by any other country in the world.
También subrayar que el Servicio Nacional de Empleo
Also to underline that the National Service of Employment
ha contactado y respaldado a 4.989 migrantes
they have backed and supported 4,989 migrants, and they've received attention for employment,
a quienes se les ofrecieron diferentes alternativas de empleo.
and they were offered different alternatives for jobs.
La Secretaría del Bienestar, que trabaja en el sur especialmente,
The Secretary of Well-Being, which works particularly in the South,
tiene en este momento cuenta con 3.093 migrantes
at this time are working with 3,093 migrants that are employed,
empleados en Chiapas, Oaxaca, Tabasco y Veracruz.
And they are now employed in Chiapas, Oaxaca, Tabasco, and Veracruz.
Asimismo, promovió 4.210 espacios laborales formales para migrantes y esto se pactó con los municipios y las empresas en la región.
So there's also 4,210 jobs that were given to migrants in different municipalities and by different companies on the southern border.
Sur, en la frontera sur.
And they have 22, what do you call them, refuges in Chiapas, Oaxaca, and Tabasco.
Y hay 22 albergues que son abastecidos con víveres en Chiapas, Oaxaca y Tabasco por parte de la Secretaría del Bienestar, aunque también ha habido una caída muy importante y proporcional correspondiente a las gráficas que les acabo de mostrar en cuanto al número de personas en los albergues. La Secretaría de Salud y el Instituto Mexicano de Seguro Social nos han apoyado en este programa para tener 77,000 consultas médicas.
So the medical department has helped us to have 77,000 medical consultations.
Y 1,422 vacunas aplicadas, especialmente a los...
And they've applied 1,400 vaccinations,
los menores de edad.
especially to the younger ones, or the minors.
La Secretaría del Trabajo, que quedó a cargo de atender especialmente a los migrantes que están en México esperando su audiencia.
And there's also a department that has given jobs to the Mexican people that have decided to try to migrate to the United States and they're waiting for their appointments in Mexico. There is someone who is in charge of giving them jobs while they're waiting so they can help to support themselves in Mexico.
En Estados Unidos, que ahí los números también muestran una caída muy significativa.
And there you can see that there's also a significant drop in those numbers.
Se llegó a un punto donde se tuvo mensualmente cerca de 50,000 personas.
Because there was a point in time when there was about 50,000 people.
Y este mes estamos estimando que sean 2,500 personas.
And this month we only estimate that there will be 2,500 people.
En total.
The total.
La Secretaría del Trabajo, decía yo, construyó 2 albergues en la frontera norte.
And the Secretary of Work developed 2 new rescue missions in the north
para esta población.
For this population.
Y han atendido un total de 3,011 migrantes.
And they've attended a total of 3,011 migrants.
2 albergues son el Leona Vicario en Ciudad Juárez.
And these refuges are, one of them is Leona Vicario, Ciudad Juárez.
Y Carmen Cerdán en Tijuana, Baja California.
And then Carmen Cerdán en Tijuana, Baja California.
Se invirtieron 396 millones de pesos, como ya se explicó.
And we invested 396 million pesos.
Para el mantenimiento e infraestructura de 15 estaciones migratorias.
For the development and infrastructure of 15 migratory stations.
Que tenían condiciones verdaderamente de abandono.
That had conditions that were abandonment and deplorable.
O de descuido.
Or lack of care.
Y eso pone en riesgo a los migrantes, por eso se hizo este.
And that put the immigrants at risk, and that is why we did this.
Inversión.
Investment.
En materia de derechos humanos,
in a matter of human rights,
no registramos ninguna recomendación de la Comisión Nacional de Derechos Humanos por el actuar de la Guardia Nacional en este programa.
And during this program, we did not have any instances of recommendations of problems or affecting the human rights by the National Guard in the year 2019 and 2020.
Síntesis, hoy tenemos resultados positivos, no
So the synthesis is today we have positive results,
solo por cuanto a que se está reduciendo el flujo de personas
not only because we are reducing the influx of people,
que es irregular,
which is irregular,
que ese es el objetivo principal.
which was the principal objective.
Quiero subrayar esto. Nuestro
And I want to underline this. I want you to notice this.
propósito es que las personas que están en territorio nacional
What we want is that the people that are in national territory of Mexico
lo estén de acuerdo a las formas previstas en la ley mexicana. Por ejemplo,
that are here under the provision of the migratory laws established in Mexico.
el refugio.
For example, the refuge.
El refugio ha crecido mucho.
The refuge has grown a lot.
México es un país que otorga refugio a las personas que lo solicitan.
And Mexico is a country that will grant asylum to people that solicit it.
Es de los países que tiene la proporción porcentual más alta de
It is of the countries that has the highest proportion
otorgamiento de refugio
of granting of refuge
frente a solicitudes de refugio.
in relation to solicitations for refuge.
¿Quién pide refugio?
And who asks for refuge?
Pues las personas que tienen problemas por inseguridad,
People that have problems with security or insecurity,
o por pobreza, o por otras condiciones similares.
or for poverty or other similar situation.
Entonces, el propósito no es evitar que ellos pidan refugio, lo están haciendo. Y
So
es
the
conforme
purpose is not for them to
El
stop
propósito es
asking for
reducir
refuge. The purpose is to
el
reduce
riesgo altísimo que corren las personas que desean migrar cuando lo hacen de manera irregular, porque eso los pone en peligro. Ese es el propósito último que queremos. Y desde luego que en sus lugares de origen, como lo ha repetido el señor presidente, tengan opciones de trabajo y de vida digna. Y ahí
So this is to give them the opportunity for work and a dignified life.
lo que México ofreció también se está cumpliendo. Como
And also what Mexico proposed is also being complied with.
dije, ya hay más de 6,000
And there's more than
empleos en El Salvador, Honduras ya
6,000
está también trabajando y Guatemala se acaba.
and there's more than 6,000 jobs now in San Salvador and Honduras and
de empezar
Guatemala
el trabajo en esa
has-
misma dirección.
has started working also in the same direction.
Con lo cual tendremos
For
en
this
total
reason-
60,000 empleos en esos tres países. Y para darnos
So for this reason, we will have about 60,000 jobs in those three countries.
una idea, si otros países hicieran lo mismo,
And that is to give you an idea that if other countries did the same thing,
prácticamente tendríamos en esos países y en el sur de México un número de empleos superior a todo el flujo migratorio experimentado en los últimos.
then we would have a number that is greater than all the influx that had entered in the migration phenomenon.
Últimos años. En síntesis, estos son los avances alcanzados y estoy a sus órdenes. Sí, por favor. Sí, ahora voy.
Buenos días, Shaila Rosagel, corresponsal del Grupo Gili, El Imparcial de Sonora, La Crónica de Mexicali y Frontera de Tijuana. Canciller, sobre el programa de los retornados, protocolos de protección de migrantes de Estados Unidos, si seguirá siendo apoyado por la Administración Federal este programa, el programa MPP, Protocolos de Protección. Ajá. ¿Y hasta cuándo terminará este convenio? En el caso de los mexicanos solicitantes de asilo, no queda claro si serán enviados a Guatemala a iniciar el trámite. Si nos puede aclarar este punto, si son los centroamericanos que deben esperar en México, si les darán o no el asilo, si van a esperar los centroamericanos. Y también si se va a mantener la política de no dar recursos a los albergues para atención de migrantes, a los albergues particulares. Y si tienen del dato que dieron de la inversión en albergues para los migrantes en el norte del país, si tienen el dato cuánto se ha invertido en las estaciones migratorias.
4 preguntas.
¿Mande?
¿Cuál de las 4 quieres? ¿Todas?
Ajá, de las...
Listo.
Estas
son muchas para que todos puedan preguntar. Mira, esperar en México, mucho gusto saludarte. Esperar en México, o las personas que están esperando en México, se ha reducido, como lo dije, de 50,000 en promedio, fue el punto más alto, y este mes esperamos que sean 2,500 en toda la frontera. Hay una caída muy, muy importante, como la cifra lo señala. Y no es...
So he says this year we're going to have about 2,500 that we expect. I'm sorry, this month so far.
No esperamos que ese número se modifique. Esa tendencia va a continuar.
We expect this tendency to continue.
Estados Unidos tiene convenios o acuerdos con terceros países como son El Salvador, Guatemala y Honduras.
The United States has some agreements with other countries, Honduras and Salvador and Guatemala.
Y entonces muchas de estas personas están esperando en esos países, ya no están esperando en México.
And some of them are waiting in these countries, they're not waiting in Mexico.
Pero eso es un acuerdo de Estados Unidos con otros países. En el caso de México, ¿por qué razón México no ha cambiado esa postura ni la cambiará?
And for what reason has Mexico not changed its position, nor will it change it?
De permitirles esperar en México a esos 2,500 personas. ¿Por qué?
To allow them to wait in Mexico, those 2,500 people. Why do we allow it?
Porque si nosotros decimos que no, nos van a deportar a otros países.
Because if we said no, they would deport them to other countries.
Entonces lo que estamos procurando es proteger su derecho a que tengan esa audiencia.
And so what we want to do is want to protect them so that they'll have the right to their audience.
Bueno, el asilo por parte de mexicanos sigue siendo un número muy pequeño.
And the asylum for Mexicans seems to be or continues to be a very low number.
Probablemente al mes no te rebasen 900 personas.
Probably in a month you will not have more than 900 people.
El grueso de las y los mexicanos que están en Estados Unidos el día de hoy, que es el programa más grande, digamos, de migrantes, son los que tienen visas de trabajo.
And the biggest sector that we have in Mexico now, in the U.S. now for Mexico, are the ones that are there with work visas.
El número de mexicanos en Estados Unidos con
That is the number of Mexicans in the United States
visas de trabajo de diferentes fórmulas
that have visas for work of different areas
es mayor al número de mexicanos repatriados cada año.
Is more than the number of Mexicans that have been expatriated.
Esto no había pasado en toda la historia, esto es muy reciente.
And this had never happened before in history. This is very recent. My goodness, I don't know who's calling me. Oh my goodness.
El apoyo para los albergues, no, sí estamos apoyando diversas instituciones o organizaciones no gubernamentales. Lo que pasa es que antes se hacía a través de los gobiernos estatales. El costo entre Juárez y Tijuana de los albergues, que es la pregunta que usted hacía, 45 millones de pesos.
The cost of the refuges is $45 million. Pesos.
Y 20 millones las estaciones migratorias en el norte del país.
And 20 million the stations that are to the north of the country.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Por favor.
Buenos días. Muy buenos días, señor canciller.
¿Cómo está?
Miguel Arzate, de Canal 14, del Sistema Público de Radiodifusión. Preguntarle, canciller, ¿qué está pasando en la frontera norte con los migrantes? Desde hace un año que el gobierno de Estados Unidos inició con estos protocolos migratorios de quédate en México. Bien, lo mencionaba, los migrantes están esperando en nuestro país, pero se habla algunas organizaciones no gubernamentales que en diciembre pasado había hasta 6,000 migrantes que no estaban siendo contabilizados, estando en campamentos, en una situación vulnerable, donde podían ser víctimas de secuestros, de asaltos, y que están esperando que se realice su audiencia migratoria en Estados Unidos. ¿Qué están haciendo con estos migrantes que están en estos campamentos? Si están atentos de ellos, en caso de que se les niegue su acceso como refugiados en Estados Unidos, México, ¿qué opción les ofrece? Si ya los localizaron, cuántos son, de qué nacionalidades, y también saber sobre los migrantes mexicanos, bueno, los mexicanos que están en espera de alguna audiencia migratoria en nuestro territorio, ¿qué opciones van a tener si les niegan el acceso a Estados Unidos? Gracias, señor canciller.
Sí se ha atendido por parte especialmente de tanto el Instituto Nacional de Migración como el subsecretario del Trabajo, y se les han ofrecido diversas alternativas. Ahora, ¿cuál es la situación en números? ¿Cuáles son los hechos? Hoy en día, en total, estimamos para el mes de febrero 2.500 personas en toda la frontera, en 3.000 kilómetros, en los diferentes puntos. 2.500, esa es la cifra que tenemos. Te comparo esta cifra con el año pasado, que llegamos a tener 50,000 en un mes. Entonces, bueno, pues ha habido un decrecimiento muy grande. Ahora, en el caso de mexicanas y mexicanos que me preguntas, no puedes esperar tu solicitud de audiencia en México porque tú estás pidiendo asilo. También hay mucha falta de información y engaño, desgraciadamente también. Es decir, si tú vas a Estados Unidos y pides asilo y eres mexicano, no podrías regresarte a México a esperar tu audiencia, porque la razón por la cual estás pidiendo el asilo es que no estás en condiciones de integridad personal en México, por la razón que se quiera. Entonces, de ahí vino el planteamiento de las autoridades norteamericanas de que podrían enviarlos a Guatemala, que es una decisión de ellos. Nosotros no compartimos esa decisión, pero por eso explico cuál es la naturaleza del tema. Entonces, lo que tienes en la frontera son connacionales que les han dicho que se apunten para pedir asilo, son 900 en total. Y entonces estás esperando a que te den tu audiencia, pero te apuntas del lado de México. Es un fenómeno que ocurre tanto en Tijuana como en algunos otros puntos. Me explico. Para tú pedir asilo en Estados Unidos necesitas hacer una entrevista de miedo creíble con un oficial de CBP en territorio.
So in order for you to make a solicitation for refuge in the United States, you have to have some credible fear that you can prove.
Estados Unidos. Previo a eso,
before that,
hay una fila.
There is a line for you to line up and sign up.
¿Qué día te va a recibir el oficial?
And you will wait to see what day the official will accept you in the United States for an interview.
Para ponerle tu caso, es decir, presentar
so
tu
you
caso
can present your case.
Y esas personas
and
son
those
las que están
people
esperando en algunos de esos puntos que tú me estás refiriendo.
are the ones that are waiting in one of those points that you mentioned. What number is it?
Personas que solicitan. El número que tenemos son 900 los que están solicitando mexicanas y mexicanos asilo. ¿De cuántos?
How
de
many?
23,000 mexicanos que
Of
llegan
23,000.
y que son repatriados en total.
And that are
para que tengamos una idea de proporciones.
repatriated
Esas
in
son las
total.
cifras oficiales que conocemos. ¿Qué estamos haciendo para atenderlos?
What are we doing to
lugar,
attend them?
darles la información.
First, we give them information.
Porque desde luego hay, ya sabrás, mucha información muy confusa.
Because there's a
para
lot
las
of
personas.
confusing information.
Y ofrecerles diversas alternativas
And
para
to
el caso
offer
que decidan
alternatives.
permanecer en México, no en sus lugares de origen exactamente, porque si estás en la frontera para pedir asilo, pues a lo mejor no quieres estar en el mismo punto, pero sí puedes estar en otro punto en México. Estamos trabajando en eso, para los 900. ¿Qué te refiero? ¿Sí?
So the 900 that are waiting refuge to come into the United States, many of them are not in their points of origin, but they're in a different place in Mexico waiting because they're hiding from something or running from something that is dangerous for them. So these are the 900 you're referring to.
Gracias. Tú, por favor. Sí, voy ahorita.
Sí, gracias. Buenos días, Canciller Juan Carlos.
So I'm going to see if there's anything else. I mean, I think that's enough discussion on the migration phenomenon. There's just so much. They have so many questions. And let me see. This guy usually asks a pretty good question.
Saber cuáles son las acciones de la Cancillería con respecto a los consulados y las embajadas alrededor del mundo. El presidente, cuando anduvo en campaña y ahora a 1 año, 3 meses de su gobierno, ha dicho que hay que combatir la corrupción, el nepotismo, la alta burocracia y quiero saber cómo está funcionando las embajadas de México y el...
So his question is, how are they, or what are they doing to change the corruption that was in the Mexican embassies? Because they were living in very expensive properties, or they were living in the lap of luxury in other places in the world, in the embassies, while the Mexican people were being not attended to properly, and also, of course, in poverty in Mexico.
Algunos consulados, porque ha habido reportes, obviamente, del mal servicio de las cancillerías, del mal servicio de los consulados. Le pongo un ejemplo: la Embajada de México en Londres, Inglaterra, su personal empieza a trabajar a las 9 de la mañana y a la 1 de la tarde ya cerraron, y dicen que si tienen una queja o una solicitud, lo tienen que hacer vía internet.
So he's saying, for example, in London, the consulate only opens from 9 to 1. And if you have a complaint, you have to do it via internet.
O deje su mensaje
or leave a message.
Y nosotros nos comunicamos si tenemos tiempo.
And we'll communicate if we have the time.
También quiero saber si hay una posibilidad de que usted regrese otra vez a las mañaneras a que nos explique cuáles son los sueldos de los cónsules y los embajadores, porque también le pongo un ejemplo: en la Embajada de Londres, en la expedición de visas y pasaportes inmigratorios, hay 8 personas ahí. Yo no estoy en contra de que trabajen, ni mucho menos en contra de que nuestras representaciones diplomáticas se cierren, porque es una relación y una apertura al mundo, pero sí debemos ser los más eficientes, con menos dinero y por supuesto que rindan, obviamente, trabajo para el país.
And so he says there's 8 people working in the embassy in London, and he thinks that maybe it's too many people being paid to be there.
¿Muchos o pocos?
A mí se me hacen muchos, no sé usted, que es el...
And he says, I think that's too many. What do you think?
Pero, ¿en base a qué? ¿En base a qué?
And he says, based on what?
¿Se te hacen muchos?
Al servicio que ofrecen.
Oh, based on the service that they provide.
¿A ti se te hacen muchos?
A mí se me hacen muchos.
Muy bien.
Digo porque...
Bueno,
well, he says because...
Okay.
Entiendo el punto, sí, claro. Cuando nos invita el señor presidente lo traemos con mucho gusto, el reporte. Hay una serie de criterios que hemos puesto de evaluación y algunas cosas que anunciaremos pues en cuanto se nos indique, o lo hacemos en la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores y les invitamos, por supuesto. Sí.
Pero no me...
So he says that they're going to be providing a report.
¿Cuáles son las acciones?
So he says, you haven't answered me. What are your actions?
Tengo que informar sobre las acciones porque son acciones complejas, integrales.
So I have to get the information because they are complex, integral operations.
Son 80 embajadas,
there's 80 embassies,
62 consulados,
62 consulates.
Son las misiones de México en el exterior.
It's the missions of Mexico in the foreign places.
Entonces, les quisiera yo compartir cómo estamos evaluando ahora el trabajo, porque
and I want to share with you how we are now evaluating their work.
También puede ser muy subjetivo.
Because it can also be very subjective.
Entonces, hicimos una serie de normas.
So we made a series of norms, or delineated a series of norms.
De criterios para evaluar el trabajo, pero no por parte del de la voz, sino
And for criteria, not just for the voice,
un órgano colegiado de la Secretaría. Es algo
but also orderly consult by the secretary.
a lo que me refiero y con mucho gusto yo se los comparto. Claro que sí.
And I will be providing that with very much happiness. I will give it to you.
Y atrás, por favor. Ahora voy, sí.
Okay, so I'm going to look for somebody else to talk. Let's see what the president has to say at the end of this, if he ever talks again, or if anyone else talks. Because my time is short and I have to go to work. Wow, it looks like it's all about him. Okay, this is when the president took over. And I really would rather just translate what the president says because I consider those words of wisdom.
Para seguir informando. Si les parece bien, en 15 días.
So he says he'll have him come back in 15 days.
Bueno, ya quedamos.
To continue to inform
Yo nada
with
más
that commitment.
Algunas cosas, ¿no?
And he says, I'm just going to punctuate a couple of things.
Para irnos entendiendo, o cada vez mejor.
So that we can understand each other every time better.
Decir que nosotros vamos a continuar con nuestra política de atender las causas.
And he says, first of all, we are going to continue with our politics of attending to the causes
que originan la migración.
That cause the origin of the migrations.
Esto lo dejamos de manifiesto.
This we leave as a manifesto.
Y me gustaría que incluso se presentara en la próxima exposición.
And also I would like it to be presented in the next exposition.
En una carta que envié
by a letter that I sent
al presidente Trump.
To President Trump.
Todavía como presidente electo.
Still as president-elect.
Y que al mismo tiempo se mostrara
and at the same time to demonstrate
la carta de respuesta
the letter with which he responded
del presidente Trump.
From President Trump.
Esa es la política
that is the politics
que estamos llevando a cabo
that we are taking into effect
materia migratoria.
When it deals with migratory matters. Also, it would be convenient
que se conociera la carta
for you to see the letter that I sent
cuando se decidió
when it was decided
aplicar aranceles
to apply
a las
tariffs
mercancías que se producen en México.
That were produced in Mexico.
Otro documento
Another document
derivado de esa carta
that was derived from that letter
es el acuerdo
is the agreement
para llevar a cabo estas acciones
to take these actions
que nos
into
llevan
effect,
a la conformación de este extraordinario equipo.
which bring us to the gathering of this wonderful, extraordinary team.
El punto 5,
Point number 5,
los resultados,
the results,
lo que estamos viendo.
what we are seeing here.
Que se pudo resolver el problema
That we were able to resolve the problem
con la convicción original
with the original conviction
de atender a los migrantes ofreciendo empleo,
to attend to the migrants, offering jobs, employment,
con buen trato, sin violación de los derechos humanos,
with good treatment, and without violation of human rights.
Y también que se tenga en cuenta
And also to take into account
que no vamos nosotros a confrontarnos
that we will not be confronting
con el gobierno de Estados Unidos,
with the government of the United
que
States,
hemos logrado una buena relación,
that we have gained a
con el
good
gobierno de Estados
relationship with the United
que
States,
se van a seguir quedando con las ganas
that
los
they,
que quisieran que me arremangara la camisa
that those that would like for me to roll up my sleeves and fight are going to still continue to wish that it would happen.
y me enfrentaba,
They would like for me to confront him,
porque esto no es de confrontación.
because this is
La
not a
política se
because this is not a confrontation matter. Politics
inventó, lo he dicho muchas veces,
was invented, and I've said it many times,
entre otras cosas,
among other things,
para evitar la confrontación.
to prevent confrontation.
Y hay una relación de respeto mutuo.
And there is a relationship of mutual respect.
No tengo ningún problema de conciencia,
I have no problem with my conscience
porque hemos sabido defender nuestra soberanía.
because we have known how to defend our sovereignty
En lo fundamental,
in that which is fundamental.
me gustaría también que Marcelo Ebrard, secretario de Relaciones Exteriores, les compartiera el texto del tratado
I would also like for Marcelo Ebrard, Foreign Relations, Secretary of Foreign Relations, would share with you the treaty that was written
que se logró en materia energética.
that we were able to achieve in the matter of energy,
Lo que significó defender nuestra soberanía
what it meant to defend our sovereignty
en materia de nuestros recursos naturales.
in the matter of our natural resources. God, I'm so proud of this president. I can hardly contain myself. He's so awesome.
En particular del petróleo.
Particularly that of petroleum.
Y que les dé los antecedentes, contextualice
And that he give you the details that came before to put it in context.
cómo fueron esos 15 días
How those 15 days went.
y qué había en ese capítulo.
And what was included in that chapter.
¿Cuál era el proyecto?
What was the project?
¿Y en qué quedó?
And what did it end up being?
Y por si fuese poco todavía explicar qué hemos hecho,
And if that were not enough explaining what we have done,
que se informe de la importancia que ha tenido
also to inform you of the importance that it has meant
el que se aprobara el tratado.
to approve the treaty.
en Estados Unidos.
in the United States.
La importancia que es para la economía de México,
the importance that it means to the economy of Mexico,
para la creación de empleo, para
for the creation of jobs,
la llegada de inversiones,
for the arrival of investments,
para el bienestar de nuestro país.
for the well-being of our country.
Entonces, que se analice cómo hemos llevado a cabo nuestra política exterior,
And so that you will understand what we have done for our foreign politics,
con apego a principios,
how we've adhered to principles,
que no se han sacrificado, y todo esto
that we have not sacrificed, and all of this
porque cuento con el apoyo de servidores públicos de primer orden.
And all of this was possible because I count on public servants that are first rate.
Y una conducción profesional.
And they conduct themselves very professionally.
De parte del secretario de Relaciones Exteriores, Marcelo Ebrard.
And by the conduct that was very professional by the Secretary of Foreign Relations, Marcelo Ebrard.
Entonces, como vamos a seguir hablando, o es un tema de interés, aquí lo hemos visto, ha quedado de manifiesto, pues que se siga informando.
And because we can see that this is a matter that is of very much interest to the people, then we will continue to inform you.
Que no quede ninguna duda.
So that there not be left a single doubt.
No tenemos nada que ocultar.
We have nothing to hide.
Nosotros no vamos a violar derechos humanos.
We will not be violating human rights.
Nosotros no vamos a permitir la tortura.
We will not permit torture.
No vamos a permitir las desapariciones.
We will not allow disappearances.
No vamos a permitir masacres.
We will not permit massacres.
Nosotros vamos siempre a proteger la vida.
We will always protect life.
De todos los seres humanos.
Of all human beings.
Nacionales o extranjeros.
Nationals and foreigners.
Somos partidarios de la fraternidad universal.
We are party to international fraternity.
Que no nos confundan. Tenemos que seguir aclarando que no.
For them not to be confusing us with others that would do such things, we always have to be clearing it up.
No somos lo mismo, que no.
That we are not the same as them.
No es más de lo mismo.
And that we are not doing more of the same.
No vamos a permitir lo que se hacía antes.
We will not permit what used to happen before.
Ya no quiero seguir recordando el pasado.
I do not want to continue to remember the past.
Pero se ponían de acuerdo los gobiernos de Estados Unidos y de México.
But the governments of the United States and Mexico used to get into cahoots.
hasta para introducir armas.
Even to introduce arms.
Pues eso no.
But no more of that.
Porque no somos lo mismo.
Because we are not the same as them.
Entonces, que los defensores de los derechos humanos.
So now, let it be that the defenders of human rights
tengan confianza.
Have confidence.
De que nosotros no vamos a maltratar a los migrantes, al contrario.
To let them be assured that we will not be abusing the human rights of migrants. On the contrary, we will
estamos protegiendo,
protect them,
cuidando,
take care of them,
nos estamos ayudando.
Help them.
Las preguntas.
Gracias, presidente. Sí se escucha, ¿no? Gracias, presidente. Es sobre un tema que nos preocupa mucho en la revista y en general en la prensa, sobre el derecho al olvido. Es una iniciativa que presentó el senador Monreal como iniciativa preferente para legislar este mal llamado derecho al olvido, que permitiría la eliminación de contenidos en Internet, cualquier tipo de contenidos, incluso los de las benditas redes sociales, como usted las llama.
Oh, this is an interesting topic. So she's saying that there is someone named Monreal who is trying to push forth a censorship law that will permit things that are in the past to remain in the past, to be forgotten. So if they did anything bad, you shouldn't tell about it. In other words, they want to silence the press, particularly the World Wide Web. They want you not to be able to tell the truth about what they've done, especially if they were, if they were brought to judgment for illegal acts and say they're still in government, so that people will not know what they're capable of.
Pero también el contenido periodístico de investigación.
And also they want to prevent investigation of journalists.
Incluso cuando los delitos ya han sido juzgados.
Even when the judgments have already been judged upon.
O cuando han prescrito en el caso de los delitos que no han sido juzgados. Así lo dice textualmente la iniciativa.
And that's exactly what he says in the law he's proposing.
Entonces, saber si usted está informado, si está de acuerdo.
And to know whether you have been informed and whether you're in agreement with this.
Que esto permitiría, pues, la eliminación de hechos de corrupción, por ejemplo, de
And this would permit the hiding of acts of corruption.
El contenido que se ha hecho público sobre casos de corrupción.
And especially acts that have been made public regarding acts of corruption.
Incluso lo que usted ha venido denunciando de expresidentes que dice borrón y cuenta nueva, pero que haya un juicio social.
Even what you have said about the ex-president's corrupt acts and that would be forgotten.
Haya una estigmatización de la corrupción.
So that they will not be stigmatized by their corruption.
Bueno, todo eso ya no se permitiría por...
And that would no longer be permitted under this law that he's proposing to reform.
Por este derecho al olvido. Entonces preguntar...
So this is a law that he's proposing, which is saying the right to have it be forgotten.
Si conoce esta iniciativa, si le preocupa...
And do you know of this initiative? And he says, no, I don't agree with it.
No estoy de acuerdo.
No, I don't agree with it.
O sea, no la conozco, pero no puedo estar de acuerdo.
And I do not know of this law, and I'm not aware of it, but I will not say that I'm in agreement with that.
Yo lo que he dicho es, perdón sí.
What I've said is, yes, forgive them.
Olvido no.
But not to forget.
O sea, eso no es posible.
That is not possible.
¿Quién sabe en qué sentido esté, pues? Pero
I'm not sure what sense you're saying it in, but
si es como lo estás poniendo, yo no estoy de acuerdo. Aunque
But if it is such as you're proposing, I am certainly not in agreement with that.
Lo va a resolver el Congreso.
Mire,
Yo,
textual,
imagínense, yo soy historiador o me gusta la historia. Que no se vayan a...
So imagine if I am a historian or I like history.
A poner muy estrictos los historiadores y me dicen, a ver, usted no es historiador.
Well, what if the historians become very strict with me and say, no, you're not a historian?
Usted apenas terminó la licenciatura.
He says, you barely got your associates
en ciencia política.
In political science.
Pero me importa muchísimo la historia.
But history is very important to me.
O sea, entonces, ¿cómo es eso de que ya no voy a poder hacer referencia en mis textos, que son los que tienen que ver con el periódico, con las redes sociales?
So how then would I be able to not make reference to things that are, say, for example, now on the social webs, or reference to other things that are documented?
Sí, del pasado.
In the past.
¿Cómo no voy a recordar?
How will I not recall it?
Voy a contestar una pregunta.
And I will answer a
El
question
dinero que nos están devolviendo,
regarding the money they're returning to us
inédito,
that is inherent,
nos devuelvan el dinero,
that they return the
recuperar
money
dinero.
to recover the money.
¿Cómo no vamos a poder hablar de esos temas?
How would we
Claro que
not
sí.
be able to talk about
Entonces,
those
yo
matters?
estoy
Of
de
course
acuerdo.
we are. And no,
No,
I am not in agreement with that. And that is something that is very
planteamiento personal.
personal to me.
Si es una iniciativa de los legisladores, ellos van a tener que argumentar.
And if that is something that is being proposed by legislators, they're going to have to argue it out.
Y allá se resuelve, ¿no?
And they will resolve
Sí,
it.
presidente, textualmente dice que los datos personales digitalizados que se tendrían que eliminar son aquellos que se encuentran en medios electrónicos, plataformas digitales, buscadores de internet y demás.
Oh my gosh. So they're asking that they would need to erase everything that was on the internet or digital media that would somehow be affecting them, that would show that they have a history of corruption or illicit activity. Anything that would prove that they have been judged to have done illegal or corrupt acts. They want it removed from history and not to be allowed to be put on the media, even if they've been judged and found to be guilty.
Más medios digitales, incluyendo textos, comentarios, interacciones,
So even texts, commentaries, interactions,
ubicaciones, contenido multimedia,
multimedia communication,
antecedentes penales cuando la condena haya sido cumplida,
even when they have been legally judged and found to be guilty,
o el delito hubiere prescrito y demás información.
and any other information that would have to do with the crimes that they committed.
Textualmente lo he leído.
Sí.
That is what I have written from what they've written, what I have read about what they wrote on the law that they plan or propose to pass.
No creo yo que haga falta eso.
He says, I do not think that is necessary.
Miren, las redes sociales, aun cuando haya excesos y robots, ¿no?
So the World Wide Web, even when there are excesses and bots,
que además tienen que ver con los de la cúpula del poder,
but those robots are there because of the powerful ones, the cúpula of power, they call it.
porque los robots no los ordena o los promueve el pueblo.
Because the people do not promote the bots
Los usuarios.
or the users,
de las redes,
or the users of the web,
usuarios comunes de las redes.
or that is not the common people of the web.
No, esos son grupos
These are promoted by groups,
de poder,
the groups of power,
de intereses creados.
of created interest groups.
Esos son los que contratan
They are the ones that contract these bots,
a empresas, porque
these companies,
eso cuesta,
because that is very expensive.
es dinero.
It's very costly.
¿Sí? Bueno, aún con eso,
But even with all that,
y con todas las campañas de mentiras
and with all the campaigns of lies
que hay,
that they have,
promovidas por grupos de intereses creados,
that are promoted by private interest groups that are created,
el conservadurismo es muy afín a eso.
the conservatives are very, have a very high affinity for this.
Les fascina a los conservadores.
Conservatives are fascinated by these things.
Tirar la piedra y esconder la mano.
They love throwing the rock and hiding the hand.
Porque esa es su doctrina.
Because that is their doctrine.
La hipocresía.
Hypocrisy.
Entonces, aún con todo,
but that is to say, even with all of that,
es libertad que
it is freedom.
no teníamos.
It is a freedom that we didn't used to have.
Por eso digo, benditas redes sociales.
And that is why I say, holy or blessed be the webs.
Porque nos silenciaban.
Because they used to silence us.
No podía la gente manifestarse, expresarse.
The people were not allowed to manifest or express themselves.
Era un control absoluto.
They had absolute control.
Una manipulación generalizada.
It was a generalized manipulation.
El control que tenían los grupos de intereses creados sobre
the control that these groups of created interest groups had control of the media.
Entonces, ahora siguen teniendo control, pero ya no el mismo.
But today they continue to have control, but it's not the same one.
Y en México hemos avanzado muchísimo en eso.
And in Mexico, we have advanced a lot in this matter.
O sea, las redes sociales en México están más desatadas.
So in Mexico, the social webs are more spread about or released, set loose.
Son más libres
They're more
que en
free
países europeos.
than in European countries.
En países europeos los cambios
In European countries, the changes that were made
se han venido dando
have
de lo
happened
convencional
from conventional
a estas nuevas opciones de comunicación,
that are now in the new options for communication,
pero los medios convencionales
but now their conventional media
se fueron apoderando
became empowered over the web
de los espacios en redes sociales. Y aunque hay libertad,
and so they took over the control of the social webs, But now there is some liberty
en las redes, en
in the
Europa,
web and in Europe,
todavía tiene mucho peso, tienen mucha influencia.
but they still have a lot of weight. They still have a lot of influence.
Los medios convencionales reconvertidos a redes sociales.
The new or the old social or the old media is now converted into new media via the social web.
México esto no sucede.
But in Mexico, this is not what is happening.
En México dominan más los usuarios individuales.
In Mexico, the individual users are more dominant.
Las personas,
the people,
los ciudadanos.
the
Esto
citizens.
es único.
This is the only place that this happens.
Entonces, por eso, prohibido prohibir.
That is why it is prohibited to prohibit.
Ese es mi punto de vista.
And that is my point of view.
Presidente, y atendiendo a la autonomía de los poderes, ¿usted podría mandar un mensaje para que esto no pase y se defienda el derecho humano a saber?
And Mr. President, would you be willing to send a message so they do not do this to take away the rights from humans to know?
El derecho humano a la información.
Or the human right to information.
Yo creo que esta opinión la comparten otros.
I believe that this opinion is shared by others.
Y ya, con este punto de vista, creo yo,
and with this point of view, I believe
que va a haber más cuidado
they will be more cautious
en la revisión de la iniciativa
in the revision of the initiative.
Y también ser respetuosos, ¿no?, de la autonomía, de la independencia.
And also to be respectful of the independence, the autonomy
del poder legislativo.
Of the legislative power.
Pero qué bien que esto se da a conocer.
But it is very good that you let it be known.
Porque hay mucha tendencia a controlar.
Because there is a great tendency to try to control
las redes.
The web.
Es decir, a censurar.
That is to say, they try to censor it.
Como no pueden,
because they can't.
Les molesta muchísimo.
It bothers them very much.
Que se esté transmitiendo ahora que nos estén escuchando.
That we be transmitting, like today, that people are listening to us.
Por las redes.
On the web.
Que nos estén viendo por las redes.
That they're seeing us on the web.
Entonces, antes no.
But before, we couldn't do that.
Sí. Yo recuerdo que en una elección, creo que hace 6 años.
I recall that in an election, I believe it was about 6 years ago.
Un periódico de España famoso.
A famous periodical in Spain, that is to say, newspaper, journalist paper.
Puso su editorial.
Put up an editorial.
Obrador es un lastre.
And he said, Obrador is a human waste.
O algo así.
Or something to that effect.
Y que en mi Twitter.
And then in my Twitter account.
¿No? Ahí ve el mensaje.
I saw the message.
Y les contesté.
And I responded to them.
Ahí les dejo de tarea que busquen lo que puse.
And I leave it to you to check. And as homework, you can try to see what I said and see what they said.
Bueno, pero si no hubiese yo contado con el tweet.
But if I was not able to count with that opportunity to tweet back.
Sí, con ese medio.
With that media.
¿Cómo era antes? Les tenías que mandar una carta.
it would be like it was before. You'd have to send them a letter.
Un fax.
Or a fax.
No, sí, para ver si te lo publicaban.
To see if they would decide to publish it.
Sí, y si se publicaba una réplica.
And if they happen to publish your replica.
Sí, lo hacían a los 30 días.
Then they did it within 30 days.
Y en la página 29 de la sección C.
And then they did it on page 29 of section C.
Del periódico.
Of the newspaper.
Sí, entonces, ahora no.
But that doesn't happen anymore.
O sea, entonces hay que defender el que tengamos posibilidad de réplica.
And we have to defend our right to replica.
Sí, respetuosa, pero
respectfully.
Que no se prohíba nada.
But that nothing be prohibited.
A ver, lo que tú comentas.
Well, I'm going to have to leave it there because I have to go to work now. But I just thought that was a very important part to include because there are people in Mexico that are very corrupt, that are still in positions of power, and also the ones that are not in Mexico that are still trying to, let's say, clear their name of the obvious corruption, so that people won't know what they're capable of and continue to trust in them and do business with them and allow them to remain in positions that would be going to someone who is trustworthy. For example, Calderón, the ex-president, is running or is trying to run for re-election again, when obviously he was one of the most corrupt presidents that has ever been, and has sold many of the rights and things that belong to the Mexican people and the state to private interest groups and got rich doing so. In trying to get back in so he could continue to rip off the Mexican people, heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. So what he wants is everything that is written about him that shows his corruption and his illicit behavior to be removed. I would not be surprised at all if he's the one who's behind this legislation because of his trying to run for office again. And really not so much run for office, but to get the money that in Mexico they give to political parties. They give millions of pesos for them to be able to run their campaigns. And a lot of them, of course, use that for personal gain. And he's well known for doing that as well. But in any case, I gotta get rolling, gotta go to work. Thank you very much for visiting. Thank you very much for watching. And I hope that this you find something beneficial. Get some of these pearls of wisdom that come from our great Mexican president, which I would say, he says it's a different guy that was the best that's ever been, but I really think he's the best that's ever been. So I admit I'm very impressed by this president. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.